In the cold, infinite reaches of interstellar space, far beyond the orbit of Pluto, something ancient stirred. It wasn't a star, or a planet, or any natural body drifting through the cosmic dark. It was something built by human hands. Fragile, deliberate, a creation from a world now decades in its past. Voyager 1. For over 47 years, it has voyaged outward, a tiny messenger of Earth, farther than any human-made object had ever traveled. It passed by gas giants like Jupiter and Saturn, escaped the gravity of our solar system, and pierced the veil into true interstellar space, a region so vast, so alien, that not even the light from our sun could guide it anymore. But in the final months of 2023, as it drifted 24 billion kilometers from Earth, Voyager 1 did something no one expected. It whispered. At first, the signal seemed normal, a faint, routine transmission picked up by NASA's Deep Space Network. But as engineers read the incoming data, their confusion turned to concern. The stream wasn't structured. It wasn't telemetry or science readings, or even error logs. It was a relentless chain of binary code, zeros and ones, looping, pulsing, repeating without explanation, like the heartbeat of a machine lost in the dark. Hit, like, subscribe, and the bell. Before the signal gets weirder, was it a malfunction? A software glitch from aging circuits? That would have made sense. After all, Voyager was designed in the 1970s with a projected lifespan of just 5 years. The fact that it had lasted nearly 10 times longer was a miracle in itself. Maybe this was simply its final breath, the inevitable collapse of a system pushed far beyond its limits, and yet something about the pattern was wrong, or perhaps too right. When specialists fed the signal into high-resolution processors, strange things began to emerge. Hidden within the static were rhythms, structures, mathematical repetitions, prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, even geometric harmonics, the kinds of patterns that don't arise from chaos, the kinds that feel unmistakably like design. For decades, Voyager had been drifting further and further from the cradle of human civilization, sending back readings of particles, radiation, and magnetic fields from the void. But now, its final signal was not just data, it was something else, something more. And in that moment, the world realized Voyager 1 wasn't fading away, it was speaking. To understand why this signal shook the scientific world, you have to understand what Voyager 1 really is and what it was never meant to become. In 1977, amidst the Cold War, bell-bottoms and disco, humanity launched 2 golden emissaries into the cosmos, Voyager 1 and its twin, Voyager 2. Their mission was humble in scope: fly by Jupiter and Saturn, snap a few pictures, collect data, and then drift into silence. They weren't built to last. 5 years was the plan. Maybe 10 at best. After that, they were expected to become silent relics, tumbling into eternity. But that's not what happened. Voyager 1 kept going, past the moons of Saturn, beyond Neptune's icy orbit, past the outer rim of the solar system, where sunlight fades into nothing and the wind from our star becomes a whisper. It ventured into interstellar space, a place no spacecraft had ever dared to go. It did all this with a computer, less powerful than a digital watch, with memory measured in kilobytes. It ran on a nuclear heart, a radioisotope thermoelectric generator filled with decaying plutonium-238, technology as elegant as it was archaic. It should have failed. Many times, but it didn't. The engineers of the 1970s, working with analog systems and punch card logic, had built something extraordinary. They had planned for the known, but Voyager endured the unknown. It kept transmitting, not just simple pings, but detailed data, measurements of cosmic rays, solar wind density, magnetic fields. It kept its eyes open until it no longer had eyes. In 1990, after fulfilling its visual mission, NASA turned off its cameras to preserve power. And yet, it remained a witness, blind but not silent. And in that blindness, it taught us. It showed us the contours of the heliopause, the invisible bubble where the sun's influence ends. It passed through the termination shock, the so-called wall of fire, where charged particles collide in an invisible storm. Scientists had theories about what lay beyond that border, but Voyager gave them evidence, readings from a region where no human creation had ever ventured. Then came the anomaly. At the end of 2023, engineers monitoring Voyager noticed something strange. The probe was still transmitting, but none of the data made sense. Telemetry readings were garbled, non-existent, or replaced by blocks of binary code with no discernible source. The Flight Data Subsystem, the module responsible for collecting and formatting information, had seemingly collapsed. NASA responded with urgency. Commands were sent, diagnostics attempted, but every instruction took 22.5 hours to reach Voyager and another 22.5 hours for the response to return. Each test consumed precious time and yielded nothing. They tried software patches, reboots, fallback protocols written decades earlier. Still, the signal persisted, the same repeating binary stream, unchanging, unyielding. A data ghost pulsing from the edge of the solar system. Some suspected a hardware failure, perhaps the telemetry modulation unit. The critical link between Voyager's memory and its transmitter had gone dark. If that were true, then Voyager could still be collecting information, but unable to speak it. But that's not what this looked like, because the noise wasn't noise. When scientists ran the binary sequences through deep learning algorithms, something unexpected emerged. The data wasn't random. Patterns shimmered beneath the surface. Strings of prime numbers, repeating constants, musical intervals, echoes of harmony, hints of order. Voyager was no longer just sending data, it was sending meaning. What began as an anomaly had now evolved into something far more unnerving and captivating. Across the globe, astrophysicists, data scientists, and cryptographers began turning their attention to the Voyager 1 signal, not just because it was mysterious, but because it refused to be dismissed. At first, some held fast to conventional explanations. Perhaps it was software corruption, cosmic rays flipping, bits in Voyager's aging memory banks, or maybe the signal was a natural echo of system decay, like the final clicks of a dying hard drive. But the patterns kept surfacing, and not just simple repetition. The binary stream, when visualized, formed nested loops, mathematical spirals that mirrored natural phenomena, the golden ratio, pi, even the structural geometry of Nautilus shells and planetary orbits. These weren't symbols Voyager was ever programmed to generate. These were structures associated with intelligence, design, and perhaps most hauntingly, intention. Then came the breakthrough. Researchers at MIT and the European Space Agency independently reported that the data exhibited features similar to linguistic syntax, not in content, but in form, like the scaffolding of a language stripped of its words. There were patterns of punctuation, cadences, beats, the shape of communication without the substance. It was as if something, or someone, was using Voyager's limited systems to construct a message from the inside out. And the spacecraft, with its humble circuitry and primitive language, had become the vessel for that message. The scientific community fractured into camps. Some clung to the theory of natural failure, albeit a fascinating one. Others leaned toward a more radical view that Voyager had encountered something beyond our understanding, something capable of manipulating its systems in ways we had never considered. A force, a field, a will. There were whispers, not in press releases but in private emails and behind closed conference doors, that Voyager might have crossed a region of space not yet known to science, a zone that defied current models, a place where information itself could be altered, where communication wasn't bound by wires or radio waves, but by something more fundamental, more ancient. That theory gained momentum when someone fed the binary code through a waveform analyzer. To everyone's disbelief, portions of the signal began to resemble the sound structure of human music, not melodies, but harmonic ratios, chords forming and resolving, like a voice that couldn't speak but could sing. And then came the most astonishing discovery of all. A few frames of the binary matched known waveforms from the Golden Record, not exact copies, but echoes, like a memory trying to reform itself. The Golden Record, affixed to the side of Voyager 1 in 1977, was a message from Earth to the stars. It contained sounds of our planet, greetings in dozens of languages, music from around the world, and diagrams describing who we are and where we come from. Its purpose was to say we were here, we existed. Now it seemed something may have listened and replied, but not in our language, not even in one we could understand. Instead, it was using the very machine we sent to deliver our message, reshaping its dying systems into a mirror, reflecting something back, not a lesson, not a story, a test. The idea spread like wildfire. What if Voyager wasn't just malfunctioning, but responding or being used? What if the probe had become more than a transmitter? What if it had become a medium? That possibility didn't just stir the scientific world, it ignited something deeper. Across the internet, speculation surged. Reddit threads ballooned into hundreds of pages. Discord servers buzzed with binary code breakdowns. Amateur linguists, sound designers, even musicians began feeding the data into custom software. Some claimed the patterns revealed waveforms that matched ancient tuning systems, as though the universe had found a way to hum in harmony with us. Others layered the data into ambient music tracks, creating soundscapes that felt unsettlingly alive, like the soundtrack to a cosmic question we were just beginning to understand. Artists painted dreamlike depictions of Voyager being engulfed by alien light or transformed into a crystalline network of thought. Poets wrote stanzas that borrowed from the repeating rhythms of the binary, and all across the globe, one phrase kept resurfacing. It's not talking to us, it's talking through us. Still curious? Click here and follow the signal.